Privilege reduction is at the heart of modern PAM. Instead of granting broad, permanent admin rights, we verify each request, grant only what is needed, and limit access by time and scope. The result is stronger control with less risk. So far, we've built the foundation: how identities are managed, which privileged accounts create the most risk, and how attackers exploit elevated access. Now we move from understanding the problem to reducing exposure using least privilege, zero trust, just-in-time access, and just enough administration. Privilege reduction shrinks the damage an identity can cause if something goes wrong. When users or service accounts have broad, always-on admin rights, one mistake, stolen password, or malware infection can spread across many systems. That is the blast radius. PAM changes this model. Rather than handing out permanent keys to everything, it grants access only when needed, for a specific task, with justification and monitoring. Attackers still look for privilege, but reduced privilege gives them fewer doors to open and less room to move. Least privilege is a simple security habit. Give every identity only the access it truly needs, for only as long as it needs it. That includes people, applications, services, service accounts, and machines. Access should match the business task, the role, and the risk. By removing extra permissions, we limit the impact of mistakes and attacks without blocking legitimate work. Excessive privilege usually does not come from one bad decision. It builds up through everyday shortcuts. A user changes roles but keeps old access. An administrator needs speed and gets added to a powerful group. A service account supports an application, then quietly accumulates permissions nobody owns. In cloud and SaaS platforms, broad default roles can expose entire environments. The pattern is lifecycle drift. Access is granted for a reason, but the reason expires before the permission does. Least privilege depends on catching that drift early, before convenience becomes risk. Putting least privilege into practice starts with translating job needs into clear access rules. Role-based, attribute-based, or policy-based models help assign permissions consistently, instead of handling every user as a one-off exception. From there, standing admin rights should be removed, and elevated access should require a valid request and approval. Regular reviews are essential, because roles change, projects end, and old permissions become risk. PAM tools make this operational by brokering sessions, monitoring activity, recording evidence, and creating an audit trail. The goal is continuous tightening, not a one-time cleanup. Zero trust turns privileged access from a one-time approval into a continuous decision. Every request is authenticated and authorized using strong signals such as identity, device health, location, session behavior, and risk. Access is then limited to what the task requires for only as long as needed. Because we assume breach, controls are designed as if an attacker may already be inside. The result is verified, contextual, risk-aware access to servers, data, applications, and cloud resources, with monitoring that keeps rechecking the decision. A successful login should not make a privileged session automatically safe. After identity is verified, the session continues to be evaluated against changing risk signals: device health, location, behavior, ticket status, and activity. If something looks unusual, such as impossible travel or unexpected admin commands, policy can adapt in real time. The user may need stronger authentication, manager approval, or tighter session limits. If risk rises too far, the session can be blocked, terminated, isolated, or closely monitored. The key idea is simple: trust is temporary, and access must keep earning it. Standing privilege is convenient, but it leaves admin power available all the time. A stolen credential, compromised session, or careless action can immediately affect critical systems. Just-in-time access changes that pattern. Users start with no persistent admin rights, then request elevation for a specific task and time window. The request can require MFA, approval, a business reason, or a linked change ticket. When the window ends, access is revoked automatically. This reduces exposure and misuse while still allowing legitimate work to happen. A JIT workflow makes privileged access a temporary governed transaction. The user requests access and provides the business reason, target system, role, and time needed. Before anything is granted, policy checks confirm identity, MFA, device health, risk level, and any required ticket. If approved, the platform elevates the user only for the defined window. During that time, the session is monitored for unusual activity. When the window expires, privileges are revoked automatically, and logs are retained for audit, investigation, and proof of control. Here's what approval-based elevation looks like in practice. A database admin needs 2 hours of elevated access for approved maintenance. The request states why access is needed, which systems are involved, the scope, the time window, and the change ticket. A manager, system owner, security team, or policy engine approves it based on risk. Once approved, access is activated just in time and expires automatically. The session and the decision are recorded, creating evidence for audits, incident review, and compliance. Just enough administration picks up where access approval stops. An administrator may have a valid privileged session, but that session is still constrained to a defined scope. They can perform the approved role, run specific commands, use approved tools, and touch only the systems or resources required for the task. Everything else is blocked, even though the user is authenticated. This matters because mistakes, misuse, and compromised accounts have less room to cause damage. Common patterns include delegated administration, PowerShell JEA, restricted pseudo rules, and role-scoped cloud permissions. JIT and JEA solve different parts of the privilege problem. JIT is about timing, when access can be used, how long it lasts, and what approval is required before it starts. JEA is about scope, which commands, roles, systems, or administrative actions are allowed once the session begins. Together, they prevent broad, always-on administrator rights. A user gets access only when justified, and only to the tasks needed. With monitoring, logging, and policy enforcement, this becomes a much stronger PAM control model. PAM brings these principles together as an operating model for privileged work. Access starts minimized. Each request is checked against identity, MFA, device health, risk, business context, and policy. If approved, the platform elevates the user or service just in time, and only with the commands or roles required. During the session, activity is brokered, recorded, and logged to monitoring systems. After the task, access is revoked, secrets can rotate, and auditors can review the evidence to improve future decisions. Modern privileged access control rests on 4 ideas: give only necessary access, verify every request, remove standing privilege, and constrain elevated actions. Together, least privilege, zero trust, JIT, and JEA reduce exposure, limit attacker movement, and improve accountability. Next, we'll look at break glass accounts and how to preserve emergency access without weakening these controls.